For over a decade, a digital specter haunted the internet. It began in the early 2000s, quietly evolving from a simple banking Trojan into one of the most sophisticated and dangerous pieces of malware in history. Its name was Qakbot, sometimes known as Qbot or Pink Slip Bot, and for years, it served as the backbone of the modern cybercriminal economy. If you were an IT administrator or a security professional during that time, Qakbot was likely your greatest nightmare. It didn't just steal money, it acted as the loader, the delivery service, and the gateway for some of the world's most aggressive ransomware gangs, including Conti, Black Basta, and Revel. It was a plague that didn't just infect systems, it paved the way for disasters. But in August 2023, the tide turned in a massive, coordinated effort known as Operation Duck Hunt, a landmark case that proved law enforcement could, and would, use the hackers' own tactics against them. To understand the scale of Operation Duck Hunt, you first have to understand what Qakbot was. It wasn't just one piece of code, it was a vast, sprawling botnet consisting of hundreds of thousands of infected computers globally. The infection process was deceptively simple, it relied on high-volume, well-crafted phishing emails. Once a user clicked a malicious link or opened a compromised attachment, Qakbot would install itself, burrowing deep into the system and establishing a connection back to the command and control servers operated by the cybercriminals. Once inside, it could do almost anything. It could steal banking credentials, scrape sensitive emails, and, most importantly, provide initial access to the network. This was the critical service that made Qakbot so lucrative. Ransomware gangs didn't need to spend months hacking into a company, they just paid the Qakbot operators for the key to the front door. By the early 2020s, the scope of the damage was immense. The FBI and international partners, including agencies from France, Germany, the Netherlands, the UK, and others, began to track the infrastructure behind this digital parasite. They realized that standard defenses, firewalls, antivirus updates, and user training were simply failing to stop the spread. The attackers were too agile, constantly updating their methods to evade detection. To take down Qakbot, law enforcement realized they couldn't just play defense. They had to go on the offensive. They needed a plan that was as sophisticated as the botnet itself. Operation Duck Hunt was the result of this realization. It was a masterclass in judicial and technical coordination. The FBI, working with international law enforcement, didn't just storm the servers and shut them down. If they had simply pulled the plug, the infected computers would have remained compromised, and the cybercriminals would have likely just spun up new servers, reinfecting the same machines. Instead, the operation was a surgical strike. The investigators gained access to the command and control infrastructure and, in a brilliant move, they hijacked the flow of data. They redirected the traffic from the infected computers, steering them away from the hackers' servers and into infrastructure controlled by the FBI. Once the FBI had successfully redirected this traffic, they sent a file to the infected machines. But this wasn't another piece of malware, it was a specialized uninstaller. This file was designed to locate the Qakbot malware on the host machine and safely remove it, severing the connection to the cybercriminals without damaging the user's files or applications. Essentially, the law enforcement agencies used the botnet's own communication channels to cleanse the very machines the hackers had enslaved. It was a digital, reverse infection. In a matter of hours, they effectively neutralized hundreds of thousands of compromised systems across the globe. The scale of the operation was staggering. According to official reports, the operation resulted in the disabling of over 700,000 infected computers worldwide, including hundreds of thousands in the United States alone. They also seized millions of dollars in cryptocurrency that the operators had generated through their illicit activities. It was a massive blow to the ransomware ecosystem. Because Qakbot was a primary delivery vehicle for so many criminal groups, its sudden disappearance left these gangs scrambling. It broke the supply chain. For a while, the ransomware as a service industry was forced to pause, reorganize, and scramble for new ways to get their malware onto corporate networks. However, Operation Duck Hunt also provided a stark lesson in the resilience of cybercrime. While the takedown was a monumental success, it wasn't the permanent end of the threat. Cybercriminals are opportunistic and notoriously difficult to eliminate entirely. The operators of Qakbot were hit hard, yes, but the knowledge they created, the code, the techniques, the infrastructure design, didn't simply vanish. The threat actors behind these botnets are often state-aligned or highly organized syndicates that operate outside the reach of typical judicial systems. They often resurface under new names, with new code, and new delivery methods. The broader significance of Operation Duck Hunt lies in the paradigm shift it represents for law enforcement. For decades, the police response to cybercrime was almost entirely reactive. An attack happens, evidence is collected, and maybe, years later, an arrest is made. Duck Hunt proved that law enforcement could be proactive. It demonstrated that by partnering with the private sector, using advanced technical analysis, and employing creative, offensive measures, they could not only disrupt the crime but also provide active remediation to the victims. It set a precedent. We are now seeing more international coalitions forming to target infrastructure, disrupt botnets, and reclaim digital territory from criminal organizations. In the end, the takedown of Qakbot is a story about the changing nature of the digital battlefield. We have moved past the era where a simple firewall was enough to protect your business. Today, the threats are persistent, industrial scale, and incredibly sophisticated.